we call upon and ask and implore all those who believe in the work of Cage to support us in every possible way that you can. But primarily that must be financially, because the work of Cage, like any other organization, cannot be sustained through just goodwill alone. Cage is an organization that I'm sure most people have heard of, but perhaps don't know the detail of the cases, of the lives that have been impacted by our work. Cage was initially set up as an organization in 2003 at the height of the period at which people were being held in Guantanamo without charge or trial, after which Cage was approached by numerous people, including family members of detainees, lawyers, activists, and even people eventually who were released. Since that time up till now, Cage has not only campaigned for the prisoners in Guantanamo, but it's gone on to be a key organization that highlights the abuses of torture and human rights in the war on terror. Baba Ahmed's father would often attend Cage events, and I remember once sitting on a table where both Baba Ahmed's father and the children of Shakar Amar were seated, and they would hear testimony from former Guantanamo prisoners and well-wishers and campaigners for both of these individuals who were ironically being held by the United States. One was Baba Ahmed fighting extradition to the United States, and the other, Shakar Amar, was fighting to come back to the United Kingdom from the custody of the United States. And this showed to me how clearly these men, these old men, had very little solace, very few places they could turn to for people to try to understand and fight for their cases, and Cage was clearly one of them. One of the things that Shakar told me when I saw him recently was that we didn't miss you at all because we used to see you on the television. The prisoners felt that Cage was the only organization in the world that was staffed with people, including former prisoners, that were speaking their voice for them.
He said himself, I can't move my arms. I requested medical for a long time. He doesn't do anything about it.
Omar Khadr is a young Canadian Muslim who I first met in the Bagram detention facility. He'd been brought in after he'd been shot in the eyes and in his shoulder and in his chest. His body looked like, after they'd finished with him, that an autopsy had been performed on him live. But somebody whose recitation of the Quran would melt everybody's heart despite the fact of his horrific injuries. And it was my honor and pleasure to be able to do something in relation with Cage to help highlight the case of this boy who had been so brutally treated, and it's also my pleasure and honor to hear now that he is free.
One last word for the Canadian public.
I'd just like to thank them, and I would ask them, to give me a chance, and they will be surprised.
There are two cases that come to mind that remind me of just how important Cage's work has been to people who've been harshly impacted by the war on terror, and both were former Guantanamo prisoners. One of them, Musa Zamouri, who perhaps some of you would have heard of, especially because of his beautiful recitation of the Quran. And he said to Cage when he visited that when he found people attending Cage events and the community feeling empowered by what they heard from the testimony of the individuals there, he felt a great sense of solidarity because he felt isolated from the communities where he'd come from. Cage has been dealing with an average of over 130 cases a year. The pressures on Cage are immense, and the difficulty of the task ahead is hard to see an end to. In helping Cage, you will be helping the cases of people like Shakar Amar, Omar Khadr, Musa Zamouri, and all the other people that we've been campaigning for. Ensure that Cage is supported and that you have supported your own akhirah and your own hereafter by doing the good deeds that will inshallah help you get there, and that is to keep Cage going.
وجه الخطوب